Maya Johnson had been on the road for nearly 14 hours. First the early flight from Chicago, then the rental car trouble, and finally the traffic jam that seemed to stretch on forever. But despite her exhaustion, she felt a spark of excitement as she pulled into the parking lot of the Grand Meridian Hotel. This was her newest property, the jewel in her growing collection of boutique hotels. She'd purchased the struggling location 6 months ago, poured millions into renovations, and hired what she believed was a top-notch staff. But Maya hadn't built her business by trusting others' reports. She believed in seeing things with her own eyes. Time to see if they're actually worth what I'm paying them. She mumbled to herself as she grabbed her small, overnight bag from the trunk. The evening air was cool against her skin as she walked toward the entrance. Maya had deliberately dressed down for this visit. Worn jeans, a simple t-shirt under a light jacket, and comfortable sneakers. Her natural hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail, and she wore no makeup after the long journey. Nothing about her appearance suggested she was the woman whose portrait hung in the staff room as the founder and CEO of Meridian Hospitality Group. That was exactly the point. Tonight she wasn't Maya Johnson, hotel magnate and self-made millionaire. She was just another tired traveler looking for a place to stay. The sliding doors parted with a soft whoosh, and Maya stepped into the lobby of her own hotel for the first time since the renovations had been completed. She paused for a moment, taking it all in. The marble floors gleamed under the warm lighting. The furniture, all hand-selected by Maya herself, looked even better in person than it had in the photos. Modern art pieces from local artists adorned the walls, creating splashes of color against the neutral palette. At least they got the aesthetics right, she thought with satisfaction. Maya approached the front desk where a young man in a crisp uniform was typing away at a computer. His name tag read, Tyler. He didn't look up immediately, continuing to type for a few seconds before acknowledging her presence with a quick glance. "How can I help you?" he asked, his tone flat and uninterested. Maya offered a friendly smile. "Hi there. I was hoping to get a room for tonight." Tyler's eyes flicked over her casual appearance, lingering briefly on her sneakers before returning to his computer screen. "Do you have a reservation?" "No, I don't. It was a last-minute decision to stop here." The young man sighed, making no attempt to hide his annoyance at having to deal with a walk-in guest. "Let me check availability." Maya watched as he tapped a few keys, knowing full well that the hotel had at least 15 vacant rooms tonight. She had checked the booking system from her phone while sitting in traffic. "Unfortunately, we're fully booked for tonight," Tyler said, not sounding particularly apologetic. Maya tilted her head slightly. "Really? That's surprising. I was just checking online and it seemed like rooms were available." Tyler's expression tightened. "The online system isn't always up to date. We've had a corporate event book out the remaining rooms." It was a lie, and they both knew it. Maya had specifically chosen tonight because there were no events scheduled at the hotel. She decided to push a little harder. "That's disappointing. I've heard such good things about this place. Are you sure there's nothing available? Even something basic would be fine." Tyler's jaw clenched. "I'll double-check with my manager, but I'm certain we don't have anything." He picked up the phone and dialed a short extension, turning slightly away from Maya as he spoke in a low voice. While she waited, Maya glanced around the lobby. 2 other guests were checking in at the other end of the front desk, being helped by a woman with a bright smile. The contrast in service was striking. Maya also noticed a security camera positioned above the desk, its red light blinking steadily. Good. This was all being recorded. Her attention returned to Tyler as he hung up the phone. "As I said, we're fully booked tonight. There's another hotel about 15 minutes down the highway that might have vacancies." His tone suggested the conversation was over. At that moment, the elevator doors opened and a man in a tailored suit stepped out. He walked with the confident stride of someone in charge, and Maya recognized him immediately from his application photo. Richard Thompson, the hotel manager she had hired through her HR department. Richard approached the desk, barely acknowledging Maya's presence. "Is there a problem here, Tyler?" "This lady wants a room, but we're booked solid for the conference," Tyler explained. Sticking to his fabricated story, Richard gave Maya a quick once-over, his expression professionally neutral but his eyes dismissive. "I'm sorry, ma'am, but we are indeed at capacity tonight. Perhaps we can help you find alternative accommodations elsewhere?" Maya reached into her pocket and pulled out her phone. She opened her booking app and turned the screen toward them. That's interesting because according to your own booking system, you have 15 rooms available right now, including 3 suites. Richard's expression faltered for just a moment before he regained his composure. As I said, we have a corporate booking that hasn't been fully processed in the system yet. What's the name of this corporate client? Maya asked innocently. I'm afraid I can't disclose that information, Richard replied smoothly. Client confidentiality. Maya nodded as if accepting his explanation. She glanced past him to see the other 2 guests being handed their room keys with cheerful instructions about breakfast hours and pool access. Both guests were dressed in business attire and carried expensive luggage. I understand, Maya said quietly, reaching into her other pocket. Client confidentiality is important. So is company policy, wouldn't you agree? Richard nodded stiffly. Absolutely. And what's the Grand Meridian's policy on refusing service to certain guests? Maya asked, her voice still calm but taking on a new edge. The manager's professional smile didn't waver. We don't discriminate against any guests, ma'am. We simply don't have rooms available tonight. Maya pulled out a small leather wallet and flipped it open, revealing a silver card with the Meridian Hospitality Group logo and her photo ID. I think you do, Richard. And I think we need to have a conversation about why you're lying to me. The color drained from Richard's face as recognition dawned. Tyler stopped typing and stared, his mouth slightly open. Ms. Johnson, Richard stammered. We didn't recognize you. Clearly, Maya replied, her voice steady despite the anger and disappointment bubbling inside her. And I'd like to know why that matters. Why a guest in jeans doesn't deserve the same service as those people in suits who just checked in. The lobby had gone quiet. The other desk clerk was watching with wide eyes. A few guests in the seating area had looked up from their phones, sensing the tension. Maya slipped her ID back into her pocket and picked up her overnight bag. I think it's time we moved this conversation somewhere more private. Both of you, come with me. As she walked toward the management offices at the back of the lobby, Maya checked her watch. It had been exactly 9 minutes since she first stepped through the doors of her own hotel. 9 minutes to see everything she needed to see. In 9 more minutes, everything at the Grand Meridian was going to change. The silence in the elevator was deafening as Maya stood between Richard and Tyler. Neither man dared to speak as they rode up to the executive floor. Maya kept her eyes fixed on the climbing floor numbers, her mind racing with thoughts of all the work she had put into making her hotels welcoming spaces for everyone. When the doors opened, Maya stepped out first. My office, she said simply, walking toward the room at the end of the hallway. The executive office had been designed to Maya's specifications, modern yet comfortable, with large windows overlooking the city. Now as she entered the space, it felt cold and foreign. This wasn't how she had imagined her first visit would be. She placed her overnight bag on the floor and turned to face the 2 men who had followed her inside. Richard was attempting to maintain his professional composure, while Tyler looked like he might be sick. Please sit down, Maya said, gesturing to the chairs across from her desk. As they sat, Maya remained standing. She took a deep breath, centering herself before speaking. I'd like to understand what happened downstairs, she said calmly, and I'd appreciate honesty. Richard cleared his throat. Ms. Johnson, I want to apologize for the misunderstanding. Had we known it was you? That's exactly the problem, Maya cut him off. Had you known it was me, you would have treated me differently. But I shouldn't have to be the owner to receive basic respect and service at my own hotel. She looked directly at Tyler. Why, did you tell me there were no rooms available? When our system clearly shows otherwise. Tyler shifted uncomfortably in his seat. I thought you might not be able to afford our rates. You didn't look like our usual clientele. And what does our usual clientele look like? Maya asked, her voice level despite her rising anger. Tyler looked down at his hands, unable to meet her gaze. Maya turned to Richard. As the manager, you backed up his lie. Why? Richard straightened his tie. Ms. Johnson, we have certain standards here. The Grand Meridian is a luxury establishment, and we try to maintain a particular atmosphere. I was simply supporting my staff's decision. Standards, Maya repeated the word slowly. What standards exactly are we talking about? Because when I founded this company, I set very clear standards about treating every guest with dignity and respect. I don't remember anything in our policy about turning people away based on how they're dressed or how they look. She walked to the wall where a framed mission statement hung, words she had written herself when she opened her first hotel 10 years ago, to provide exceptional hospitality to all who enter our doors, without exception or prejudice. I wrote this, Maya said, tapping the glass. This isn't just corporate jargon. These are my values, the foundation of everything I've built. She turned back to face them. So I'll ask again. What standards were you upholding by denying me a room? Richard's professional veneer finally cracked. We've had issues with certain types of guests disrupting the experience for others. We were just trying to be selective. Selective, Maya echoed, the word tasting bitter in her mouth. And how exactly do you determine who deserves to stay here and who doesn't? What criteria are you using to be selective? Neither man answered. Maya walked to her desk and sat down, opening her laptop. Let me show you something. With a few clicks, she pulled up the security footage from the lobby and turned the screen so they could see. In the past hour, the front desk has checked in 7 walk-in guests without reservations. All were given rooms without question. None were told about any mysterious corporate booking. She fast-forwarded through the footage, stopping at each check-in. What's the difference between these guests and me, Richard? What made them acceptable and me unworthy? Richard stared at the screen, his face growing pale. The evidence was damning. Every guest who had been welcomed was white or clearly affluent. Maya, in her casual clothes, had been the only one turned away. It wasn't... I didn't mean... Richard stumbled over his words. I don't think you woke up this morning planning to discriminate, Maya said. I think it's more subtle than that. It's in the assumptions you make, the snap judgments, the gut feelings you trust without questioning where they come from. She turned to Tyler. When I walked in, what was your first thought? Be honest, Tyler swallowed hard. I thought you might cause trouble. You didn't look like you belonged here. And why is that? Maya pressed. Because... Tyler hesitated, then finally admitted, because you're black and you weren't dressed expensively. I assumed you couldn't afford it or would make other guests uncomfortable. The truth hung heavy in the air between them. Maya nodded slowly. Thank you for being honest. That's the first step. She turned her attention back to Richard. As manager, you're responsible for the culture in this hotel. What have you been teaching your staff, intentionally or not? Richard's shoulders slumped. Miss Johnson, I never explicitly instructed anyone to discriminate, but I may have implied certain preferences about our clientele. Implied preferences, Maya repeated. She closed her laptop and folded her hands on the desk. Do you know why I started this company? Both men shook their heads. 10 years ago, I was traveling for my previous job. I had just closed a major deal, the biggest of my career. I was exhausted but proud of my work. I stopped at a luxury hotel to treat myself to a nice room for the night. Maya's eyes grew distant with the memory. The receptionist took one look at me and said they were fully booked. I knew they weren't. I could see their vacancy sign from the parking lot. But I was too tired to argue, so I left and found somewhere else to stay. She leaned forward slightly. The next day I sent a white colleague to the same hotel. He got a room immediately. That's when I decided to create hotels where that would never happen to anyone. Maya stood up again, walking to the window. The city lights twinkled below, hundreds of tiny stars against the darkening sky. I built this company because I believed in creating spaces where everyone feels welcome, where the color of someone's skin or the price of their clothes doesn't determine how they're treated. She turned back to face them. And tonight in my own hotel, you made me feel exactly how I felt 10 years ago. Tyler looked down, unable to meet her gaze. Richard stared straight ahead, his face a mask of shame and discomfort. I don't believe people can't change, Maya continued. But I do believe that actions have consequences. She walked back to her desk and pressed the intercom button. Lisa, could you please come to my office? A moment later, there was a knock at the door and a woman in a business suit entered. Yes, Ms. Johnson. Lisa is the regional HR director, Maya explained to Richard and Tyler. She's been waiting upstairs since I called her from the parking lot. Maya had planned this visit carefully, hoping to be proven wrong about her suspicions. Instead, her concerns had been confirmed in the worst possible way. Lisa, I need you to begin the process of reviewing all front desk interactions for the past 3 months. I want to know if what happened to me tonight is an isolated incident or part of a pattern. Yes, ma'am. Lisa nodded, making notes on her tablet. I also need you to arrange for temporary management to take over operations effective immediately. Call our team from the downtown location. They'll cover until we can make permanent arrangements. Richard's face went pale. Ms. Johnson, please, I can fix this. Give me another chance. Maya turned to him, her expression not unkind but resolute. This isn't a rash decision, Richard. What happened tonight wasn't just poor customer service. It was discrimination, plain and simple. And in my company, that's non-negotiable grounds for dismissal. She looked at Tyler, who seemed to be fighting back tears. I believe people deserve second chances, but not in the same role where they've caused harm. I'll make sure both of you receive fair severance packages, and I won't blacklist you in the industry. But your time at the Grand Meridian ends tonight. Maya pressed the intercom again. Lisa, please escort Richard and Tyler to collect their personal belongings. Their access cards should be deactivated immediately. As Lisa led the two men out, Maya sat back down at her desk, the weight of the situation settling on her shoulders. She hadn't wanted this outcome. She had hoped to find a well-run hotel with staff who embodied her values. Instead, she had uncovered a culture that contradicted everything she stood for. Her phone buzzed with a message from Lisa. Security footage review already showing multiple similar incidents. This wasn't isolated. Maya closed her eyes for a moment. 9 minutes. That's all it had taken to expose a problem that ran deeper than she had feared. 9 minutes that would change everything, and now the real work would begin. Maya sat alone in her office long after Richard and Tyler had been escorted out. The city lights twinkled outside her window as night fell completely, but she barely noticed. Her mind was racing, replaying the events that had unfolded downstairs. She picked up her phone and scrolled through the security footage Lisa had sent her. More instances of selective treatment appeared on her screen. A young couple in casual clothes being turned away, while a man in an expensive suit was welcomed minutes later. An elderly woman with an accent being told there were computer issues with her reservation. A family of 4 who clearly weren't white being quoted a room rate nearly double what was advertised. Each new example made Maya's stomach knot tighter. This wasn't just about her experience tonight. This was systematic. A knock at the door interrupted her thoughts. Lisa entered carrying 2 cups of coffee. I thought you might need this, Lisa said, placing 1 cup on Maya's desk. It's going to be a long night, Maya nodded gratefully. How bad is it? Lisa sat down across from her. I've reviewed footage from the past week. So far, I've documented 17 clear instances of discriminatory practices. The pattern is consistent with what happened to you tonight. 17, Maya repeated, the number hanging heavy in the air. That's 17 people who came to my hotel and were made to feel unwelcome because of how they looked. She took a sip of coffee, letting the warmth spread through her chest. How did I miss this? You can't be everywhere, Lisa said gently. That's why you have managers and systems in place. Systems that clearly failed, Maya replied. She stood up and walked to the window, staring out at the city below. I keep thinking about those 17 people. Where did they go after being turned away? How did they feel? Did they know what was happening? Or did they just accept the lie they were told? Lisa remained silent, knowing Maya needed space to process. I've been that person, Maya continued. Standing at a counter being told no when everyone else is hearing yes. I swore I would never let that happen in my establishments. She turned back to face Lisa. I need to see everything. All the footage, all the records. I need to understand the full scope of this. I've already started pulling it together, Lisa assured her. The team will have a comprehensive report by morning. Maya checked her watch. 11:37 p.m. It had been just over 3 hours since she'd walked through the front doors of her own hotel and been denied a room. Who's managing the front desk now? She asked. I called in Danny from downtown. She brought 2 of her best people with her. They arrived about 20 minutes ago and are already on the floor. Maya nodded. Danny was one of her most trusted managers, competent, fair, and thoroughly aligned with the company's values. I want to see her. I'll let her know you're coming down, Lisa said, pulling out her phone. No, Maya stopped her. Don't tell her. I want to see how they handle an unexpected guest. Lisa raised an eyebrow but nodded in understanding. Maya opened her overnight bag and pulled out a change of clothes, a simple black dress and flat shoes. Not her usual business attire, but more polished than what she'd been wearing earlier. She freshened up in her private bathroom, removing all traces of her earlier frustration from her face. 10 minutes later, she stepped out of the elevator into the lobby, this time as a different version of herself. Not the CEO, not the casual traveler, but somewhere in between. A woman who expected good service but wasn't obviously wealthy or important. The lobby had changed shifts. The night crew was now on duty, and Maya immediately noticed the difference in energy. Danny was behind the front desk, training a young man Maya didn't recognize. They were both smiling and engaged with their work. Maya approached, her heart beating a little faster than normal. This was the test. Would her hotel pass on the second try? "Good evening," Danny greeted her with a warm smile. "Welcome to the Grand Meridian. How can I help you tonight?" "I need a room, please," Maya said simply. "Just for one night?" "Of course," Danny replied without hesitation. "Do you have a reservation with us?" "No, I'm afraid not. It was a last-minute decision." Danny nodded, already typing into the computer. "That's not a problem at all. We have several rooms available. Do you have any preferences? Something near or far from the elevator? High floor or low?" The contrast to her earlier experience was stark. No suspicious glances, no excuses, no consultation with a manager. Just simple professional service. "A high floor would be nice," Maya said, "with a view if possible." "Absolutely," Danny replied cheerfully. "We have a lovely king room on the 14th floor with a city view. Would that work for you?" Maya nodded, a lump forming in her throat. This was how it should be. This was what she had always envisioned for her hotels. As Danny processed the check-in, the young man she was training watched carefully, occasionally asking quiet questions about the system. Maya noticed that he was taking notes, eager to learn the correct procedures. "May I have your ID and a credit card for incidentals?" Danny asked. Maya handed over her driver's license and credit card, watching Danny's face for the moment of recognition. It came almost instantly, a slight widening of the eyes, a pause in her movements. But instead of making a scene, Danny simply continued the check-in process professionally. "Thank you, Ms. Johnson," she said, her voice betraying only the slightest tremor. "Your room is all set. Would you like assistance with your luggage?" "No, thank you." "I can manage," Maya replied. She accepted the key card Danny handed her, impressed by the manager's composure. "Actually, before I go up, could I speak with you privately for a moment?" "Of course," Danny replied. She turned to the trainee. "Kevin, could you cover the desk for a few minutes? Remember what we practiced about checking availability?" Kevin nodded eagerly, taking Danny's place at the computer. Danny led Maya to a small office behind the front desk. As soon as the door closed, she turned to face her boss. "Ms. Johnson, I had no idea you were coming tonight. Lisa just called and said there was an urgent situation, and I needed to take over immediately." She didn't explain. Maya held up a hand, stopping Danny's nervous explanation. "You're not in trouble. In fact, you're the first thing that's gone right at this hotel tonight." Relief washed over Danny's face. "Thank you. But what happened? The staff I replaced seemed shaken, and there are rumors flying around about mass firings." Maya gestured for Danny to sit, then took a seat herself. "I came to the hotel earlier this evening, dressed casually to see how guests are treated when they don't look important. I was denied a room that I know existed. When I revealed who I was, the staff admitted they turned me away because of how I looked and, implicitly, because of my race." Danny's expression transformed from confusion to shock to anger. That's unacceptable." "It is," Maya agreed. "And unfortunately, it wasn't an isolated incident. We're finding evidence of a pattern of discrimination." "What can I do to help?" Danny asked without hesitation. Maya felt a surge of gratitude for this woman who had been with her company for 5 years, who understood its values on a deep level. "I need you to temporarily take over as manager here. Not just for tonight, but potentially for several weeks while we investigate fully and rebuild the team." Danny nodded solemnly. "Of course. Whatever you need." "It won't be easy," Maya warned. "We need to review every employee, retrain those who can be retrained, and replace those who don't align with our values. We need to reach out to guests who may have been discriminated against. We need to make this right." "We will," Danny said with conviction. "This isn't what we stand for." "No, it isn't," Maya agreed. She stood up, feeling some of the weight lift from her shoulders. "I'll stay tonight and tomorrow. We'll work on a plan together." Danny stood as well. I'll gather the staff first thing in the morning. Those who remain need to understand the seriousness of what happened. As they walked back into the lobby, Maya noticed a family entering through the front doors. A tired-looking couple with 2 small children, their clothes rumpled from travel. The kind of guests who might not fit the luxury profile Richard and Tyler had been cultivating. Kevin, the trainee, greeted them immediately with a warm smile. "Welcome to the Grand Meridian. How can I help you tonight?" Maya watched as he efficiently checked them in, offering information about the children's amenities and breakfast options. No hesitation, no judgment, just good service. "He's got potential," Maya said quietly to Danny. "He does," Danny agreed. "He came from our downtown location. Been with us about 6 months working his way through college." Maya nodded approvingly. "Keep an eye on him. We're going to need good people who understand our values as we rebuild." As she walked toward the elevator with her keycard, Maya felt a complex mix of emotions. Disappointment in what had happened. Anger at the injustice, but also hope for what could still be. The Grand Meridian had failed its test tonight, but the failure had exposed a problem that might otherwise have festered unseen. In her room on the 14th floor, Maya stood at the window looking out at the city lights. The view was beautiful, exactly as promised. She took out her phone and made a note to herself. "Mystery shoppers, implement monthly at all locations. Different ages, races, styles of dress. Full report directly to me." 9 minutes had changed everything tonight. 9 minutes had revealed an ugly truth. But what mattered now was what would happen in the days, weeks, and months to come. Maya was determined that her hotels would truly become what she had always intended them to be. Places where everyone was welcome, without exception or prejudice. She sat at the desk and began to write out her plan for tomorrow. There was so much work to be done, but for the first time since entering the hotel tonight, Maya felt ready for it. This was why she had built her company in the first place. This was what really mattered. The hotel's main conference room buzzed with nervous energy as staff members filed in the next morning. Maya stood at the front, watching them take their seats. She had been up since 5 a.m., reviewing the full report Lisa had prepared. The findings had only strengthened her resolve. Danny closed the door once everyone was seated. The room fell silent as all eyes turned to Maya. Some faces showed curiosity, others anxiety. Most of them had never met the owner in person before, but they'd all heard the rumors about what had happened last night. "Good morning," Maya began, her voice calm but firm. "For those who don't know me, I'm Maya Johnson. I founded this company 10 years ago with a simple mission, to create hotels where every guest feels valued and welcome." She paused, looking around the room. "Last night I experienced firsthand what happens when that mission is forgotten." Maya clicked a button on her laptop, and the large screen behind her displayed security footage from the previous evening, her interaction with Tyler and Richard at the front desk. The staff watched in uncomfortable silence as their former colleagues lied to the company's owner, denying her a room that clearly existed. "This isn't about me," Maya continued when the footage ended. "This is about who we are as a company and what we stand for." She clicked to the next slide, which showed a series of similar incidents captured over the past month. Each of these guests was turned away despite available rooms. Each one matched a certain profile. They didn't look right according to some unwritten standard. Murmurs spread through the room. Some staff members looked shocked, while others averted their eyes, perhaps knowing they had witnessed such incidents and said nothing. "I'm not here to place blame on every person in this room," Maya assured them, "but I am here to make it absolutely clear that this stops today. No exceptions. No excuses." A young woman in a housekeeping uniform hesitantly raised her hand. Maya nodded for her to speak. "Ms. Johnson, some of us tried to say something when we noticed what was happening, but Mr. Thompson told us it was executive policy to be selective about walk-ins. He said it came from the top." Maya felt a chill run down her spine. "From the top? He claimed these instructions came from me?" The woman nodded, looking nervous. "He showed us an email that he said was from corporate, telling managers to use their discretion to maintain the hotel's image." Several other staff members nodded in agreement. Maya exchanged a glance with Lisa, who was already typing furiously on her tablet. "I never sent such an email," Maya said firmly, "and I would never approve, say, HOA policy. This company was built specifically to fight against that kind of discrimination." Another hand went up. an older man from the maintenance department. So what happens now? Are we all getting fired too? It was the question everyone in the room wanted to ask. Maya could see the fear on their faces. People worried about their livelihoods, their families, their futures. No, Maya said decisively. What happens now is we rebuild, together. She moved from behind the podium, taking a step closer to the staff. I believe most of you came to work here because you care about hospitality, about making people feel welcome. That's what I want to get back to. She nodded to Danny, who distributed folders to everyone in the room. Inside, you'll find two things. First, a clear restatement of our company values and policies regarding equal treatment of all guests. I expect every one of you to read it today and sign the acknowledgement form. The staff began opening their folders, skimming the documents inside. The second item is a schedule for mandatory training sessions that will begin this afternoon. Everyone, from housekeeping to management, will participate. No exceptions. A hand rose from the back of the room. What if we don't want to? It was a heavy-set man with an air of defiance. What if some of us agree with Mr. Thompson's approach? The room went silent, all eyes darting between the man and Maya. This was the moment that would define everything that followed. Maya met his gaze steadily. Then you're welcome to seek employment elsewhere with immediate severance per your contract. My hotels will not compromise on equal treatment for all guests. That's non-negotiable. The man held her gaze for a moment, then stood up, dropped his folder on the chair, and walked out. Two others followed him. Maya watched them go without comment, then turned back to the remaining staff. Anyone else? No one moved. Good, Maya continued. Because what we're about to do isn't easy, but it's necessary. We're going to examine every aspect of how this hotel operates and make sure our practices align with our values. It's going to be uncomfortable at times. We'll have to confront biases we might not even know we have. She clicked to a new slide showing a calendar. Phase 1 starts today with training. Phase 2 begins next week. We'll implement new protocols and oversight systems. Phase 3 involves community outreach and making amends to those who were turned away. A young man from the restaurant staff raised his hand. How will we find those people? The ones who were turned away? It was a good question. Maya smiled slightly, impressed by his thinking. We have security footage with timestamps. For those who paid with credit cards or made preliminary inquiries, we may have contact information. For others, we'll reach out through community networks and social media, offering a public apology and invitation to return as our guests. The mood in the room was shifting. The initial tension was still there, but now mixed with something else, a cautious optimism, perhaps even a sense of purpose. I'd like to tell you about why I started this company, Maya said, setting aside her notes. This part needed to come from the heart, not from a prepared statement. 10 years ago, I was a consultant for a major financial firm. I traveled constantly for work. One night, after closing a huge deal that made millions for my company, I tried to check into a luxury hotel. I was exhausted, dressed in casual clothes, and just wanted a comfortable bed. She paused, the memory still fresh after all these years. The receptionist told me they were full. I knew they weren't. Their vacancy sign was lit. But I was too tired to argue, so I left and found a budget motel down the road. Maya looked around the room, making eye contact with different staff members as she continued. The next day, out of curiosity, I sent a white colleague to the same hotel. He got a room immediately. No questions asked. She let that sink in before continuing. That night, sitting in my motel room, I made a decision. I would create a hotel chain where that would never happen to anyone else, where people would be judged by how they treat others, not by how they look or dress or speak. The room was completely silent now. Every person focused on her words. That's the foundation this company is built on. It's not just a nice sentiment in a mission statement. It's the whole reason we exist. And somehow in this hotel we lost sight of that. Maya picked up a glass of water, taking a sip before continuing. Yesterday, when I was denied a room in my own hotel, I felt that same humiliation from 10 years ago. But I also felt something else, determination. Because now I have the power to make sure it doesn't keep happening. She placed her glass down and straightened her shoulders. So that's what we're going to do. Starting today, we're going to rebuild this hotel's culture from the ground up. And if you choose to stay, you'll be part of creating something we can all be proud of. A hand rose tentatively from the middle of the room. Kevin, the new trainee from last night. Ms. Johnson, I just wanted to say, I'm new here, But where I worked before, at your downtown location, the values you're talking about were real. Everyone lived them every day. That's why I wanted to work for this company in the first place." His words hung in the air, a reminder that what Maya was asking for wasn't impossible. It was already happening in other parts of her company. "Thank you, Kevin," Maya said with genuine appreciation. "That's exactly what I needed to hear today. It reminds me that this situation, as disappointing as it is, doesn't represent who we are as a company." She turned to address the whole room again. "The Grand Meridian will be closed to new guests for the next 3 days while we complete intensive training. Current guests will, of course, be allowed to finish their stays with full service. When we reopen, it will be with a renewed commitment to our founding values." Maya looked at her watch. It had been exactly 9 minutes since she began speaking. 9 minutes to lay out her vision for rebuilding. 9 minutes to set a new course. "The first training session begins at noon," she concluded. "Until then, I'd like each of you to take some time to reflect on why you chose a career in hospitality and what that means to you. Ask yourself, when a guest walks through our doors, what do I want them to feel? How do I want to make them remember their stay?" As the staff filed out, Maya noticed something unexpected, a sense of energy, of possibility. Many of them were already talking among themselves, seeming engaged rather than defeated. It wasn't universal. Some still looked uncertain or resistant, but it was a start. Danny approached as the room emptied. "That went better than I expected." Maya nodded, gathering her notes. "It's just the beginning. The real test will come when we reopen." "We'll be ready," Danny assured her. "Those who want to be part of the solution will stay. The rest will filter themselves out." Maya looked around the now empty conference room, thinking about the days ahead. 9 minutes, she murmured. "What?" Danny asked. "That's how long it took last night, from when I walked in until I was denied a room. 9 minutes that changed everything." Maya turned to her trusted manager with determination in her eyes. "Let's make sure they changed it for the better." 3 months later, Maya stood in the lobby of the Grand Meridian, watching the steady flow of guests checking in for the weekend. The space hummed with warm conversation and laughter. A family with small children received the same attentive service as a group of business executives. An elderly couple was escorted to their room by a smiling bellhop. 2 women in hiking boots and casual clothes approached the front desk and were greeted with genuine enthusiasm. This was how Maya had always envisioned her hotel, not just luxurious but welcoming to everyone. "Quite a change, isn't it?" Lisa said, appearing at Maya's side. Maya nodded, taking in the scene. Night and day. The past 3 months had been intense. After that initial meeting, about 20% of the staff had chosen to leave, some immediately, others in the weeks that followed as the new standards were enforced. Maya didn't mourn their departure. The ones who stayed were committed to the vision, and the new hires brought fresh energy and perspectives. "The latest guest satisfaction scores came in this morning," Lisa said, handing Maya a tablet. "We're up 17 points since the reopening." Maya scrolled through the data, noting the dramatic improvement across all categories. But one particular statistic caught her eye. "Look at this. The diversity of our guest demographics has increased by 32%. "Word is spreading," Lisa confirmed. "People who might have avoided luxury hotels in the past are giving us a chance." Maya handed back the tablet, a mix of satisfaction and lingering sadness washing over her. It shouldn't have taken what happened to make these changes. We should have been monitoring more closely all along. "True," Lisa acknowledged. "But what matters is how we responded once we knew. And speaking of responses," she gestured toward the entrance where a group was being welcomed by Danny. Maya recognized them immediately. The Johnson family, no relation to her, had been one of the 17 groups identified in the security footage review. They had been turned away by Richard 4 months ago when trying to book a room for their grandparents' anniversary celebration. Maya had personally called them as part of the outreach program, extending an invitation to return as honored guests. After initial skepticism, they had agreed, and today they were finally here. Maya walked over to greet them, extending her hand to Mr. Johnson, a distinguished man in his 60s. "Thank you for giving us another chance." "Your call was quite a surprise," he replied, shaking her hand firmly. "Not many business owners would admit to such problems, let alone try to make amends." "It was the only right thing to do," Maya said simply. "I hope your stay will show you how serious we are about creating a welcoming environment for all our guests. Mrs. Johnson, elegant in a floral dress, looked around the lobby appraisingly. I have to say the atmosphere does feel different from our last visit. That's the highest compliment you could give us, Maya smiled. Danny will make sure you have everything you need for your anniversary celebration. The private dining room is being prepared as we speak. As Danny led the family toward the elevators, Maya turned to find Kevin waiting nearby with a folder. In the months since that night, he had proven himself to be exceptionally talented and had recently been promoted to assistant manager. The final report on the mystery guest program, as you requested, he said, handing her the folder. Maya had implemented monthly unannounced visits by people of various backgrounds, ages, and appearance to test the hotel's commitment to equal treatment. The reports went directly to her desk. Any concerns? She asked, opening the folder. Kevin shook his head. Perfect scores across the board. All 15 mystery guests were treated with the same level of service, regardless of how they were dressed or what they looked like. Excellent, Maya said, feeling a weight lift from her shoulders. The changes were taking root. What about the other locations? After discovering the issues at the Grand Meridian, Maya had instituted the same mystery guest program at all 23 of her hotels. The results had been eye-opening. While none had shown the systematic discrimination found here, there had been concerning patterns at 5 other locations. Downtown and Westside are showing great improvement, Kevin reported. Riverside still has some inconsistencies with certain staff members. Lisa has scheduled additional training sessions for next week. Maya nodded thoughtfully. The work was ongoing. Changing a culture didn't happen overnight, but the progress was undeniable. There's something else you should see, Kevin added, leading Maya toward the front entrance. It just went up this morning. Near the door, a new installation had been mounted on the wall. It was a beautifully designed display with the words "Our Promise" at the top, followed by the company's commitment to equal service for all guests. At the bottom was a QR code. What happens when someone scans the code? Maya asked. It takes them to a feedback form that goes directly to management and to your office, Kevin explained. If anyone feels they've been treated unfairly, we want to know about it immediately. Maya felt a surge of pride. This hadn't been her idea. It had come from the staff themselves during one of their weekly culture meetings. They were taking ownership of the changes, not just following orders. It's perfect, she said softly. A commotion at the front desk caught Maya's attention. A guest was raising his voice at one of the newer receptionists, a young woman named Alicia. I specifically requested a room on a high floor, the man was saying, his tone condescending. Is that so difficult to understand? Maya moved closer, watching how the situation would be handled. This was the real test, not how staff behaved when things went smoothly, but how they responded to difficult situations. Alicia remained calm and professional. I understand your preference, sir, and I apologize for the confusion. While we don't have high-floor rooms available at the moment, I can offer you our executive suite on the 4th floor, which has an excellent city view and additional amenities, at no extra charge. The man continued to bluster, but Alicia didn't waver. She offered solutions rather than excuses, remained respectful without being subservient, and eventually won him over with her genuine desire to make his stay pleasant. Maya caught Alicia's eye when the guest had gone and gave her an approving nod. The young woman smiled back, standing a little straighter. These small interactions were where the real change happened, in how staff members handled daily challenges, in the respect they showed to every guest regardless of appearance or behavior, in their confidence to uphold the hotel's values even under pressure. Later that evening, Maya sat in her office reviewing the day's reports. A knock at the door interrupted her thoughts. Come in, she called. Danny entered, looking pleased. The Johnsons' anniversary dinner went perfectly. Mr. Johnson asked me to give you this. She handed Maya an envelope. Inside was a handwritten note. Ms. Johnson, our celebration tonight was everything we had hoped for when we first tried to book at your hotel months ago. The difference in how we were treated was like night and day. What impressed us most, however, was not the excellent service, though it was exceptional, but your willingness to acknowledge past wrongs and take concrete steps to address them. That is true leadership. Thank you for turning what was initially a painful experience into something transformative. Sincerely, the Johnson family. Maya read the note twice, then carefully placed it in her desk drawer where she kept reminders of why her work mattered. There's something else, Danny added, Remember that community outreach program we discussed? Working with local colleges to provide internships in hotel management? Maya nodded. It had been one of the initiatives developed during their rebuilding process, a way to ensure their staff would become more diverse over time. We've received over 60 applications already, Danny said excitedly. The dean of the hospitality program wants to know if you'd be willing to speak to their students next month about ethical business practices. Tell her I'd be honored, Maya replied, making a note in her calendar. As Danny left, Maya walked to the window of her office looking out at the city lights, the same view she had contemplated that night 3 months ago, when everything had changed. Her phone buzzed with a notification, the daily report from the mystery guest program at her hotel in Phoenix. All positive. Another buzz, the one from Chicago. Also positive. One by one, reports came in from across her hotel chain, showing that the changes were taking hold everywhere. Maya thought about how it had all started, with her being denied a room at her own hotel. That painful 9-minute interaction had exposed problems she might never have seen otherwise. Problems that had hurt countless guests before her. But pain could be a powerful teacher if you were willing to learn from it. Those 9 minutes had transformed not just one hotel, but an entire company culture. They had reminded everyone, staff and leadership alike, of the values that had built the business in the first place. Maya returned to her desk and picked up a framed photo, the original Grand Meridian on its opening day 10 years ago. She had stood proudly in front of those doors, full of dreams about creating spaces where everyone felt welcome. Somewhere along the way, that vision had become blurred at some of her properties. But now it was clear again, perhaps clearer than ever before. Tomorrow, Maya would fly to another hotel in her chain for a surprise visit. Not as the CEO this time, but as an ordinary guest, just another traveler looking for a place to stay. She would see firsthand if the changes were real and lasting, but tonight she allowed herself a moment of quiet satisfaction. The 9 minutes that had shaken her confidence in everything she had built had also set in motion a transformation that made her company stronger, more inclusive and more true to its founding principles than ever before. Sometimes, Maya reflected, you had to lose your way before you could find it again, and sometimes, the most important lessons came in the moments when you least expected them, like 9 minutes at the front desk of your own hotel.